All right, so what we want to do is we want to integrate our API CRUD operations. We would like to implement them on the UI side so that when we're adding favorites, we're not just throwing alerts, we are actually calling the backend. We had to do this workaround where we were using this third-party tool, Postman, and we were triggering the CRUD operations from here. That's how we were managing our list. Ideally, we want the UI to trigger this. We don't want to have to rely on Postman. Postman is fine and great if you're building API endpoints and you're testing them without a UI, but we're doing full stack here. So obviously we want to start hooking this up to the UI. So if you notice there is a problem here, there's a problem with all of our CRUD operations and our fetch. We're going to look into the server and find out what it is. It's because we separate out the modules, and inside of Mongoose, there's an issue with the actual model watch item. So right now it's throwing an undefined error or exception in the background. So none of these calls are going to be firing properly. So we're going to address that. So you see back in our server side, we have our endpoints, and they're calling into watchlist module. And if you notice the error here, it's saying reference error, watch item, which is our model, is not defined. Because if you recall, we have our CRUD operations, but we had pulled out anything to do with the Mongoose modeling into that Mongoose module. So by doing that, we also pulled out the reference to the watch item, and that is what's causing the issue right now. We're still referencing it. So ideally, we want to move everything that deals with Mongoose and models to the module. The watch list module itself can call crypto coins, Mongoose, and whatever else, and it can aggregate out our DTO object. So we can snip this out. And back in our watch list module, so we're going to open up Mongoose module, put it side by side. And we're going to build out our CRUD operations here. So we have one for fetch, so we're going to add one for save watch items. Save is going to be asynchronous. It's going to take the symbol, and then we can sync out this asynchronous method here with the symbol as a parameter. And then we can copy, paste, or reuse and apply what we had just snipped out here. So you see we had grabbed this watch item here. We're just going to apply it in our save watch item on the right there. So we have our watch item, define a couple of symbols, and then use mongoose.save to insert it into the database. Once we have this method here, we're going to expose it, and then we need to remember to import it into the watchlist module so that we can easily call into it. And by doing this, we're going to fix that undefined error. So now we're leveraging that save watch item, passing it the symbol, and let the Mongoose module deal with this. So now if we test this back in Postman, we send the symbol for Solana. Ideally, when we go to fetch it, we should see it persisted now. There, you can see it here. So this works. This approach works. We need to do the same thing for delete. We'll do a refresh in the UI. And then you can see in our watch list that the UI is picking up the fetched Solana watch item. So rinse and apply again. So we'll create a new method for delete watch item. Mark it as asynchronous, give it the symbol to delete by, and it's pretty much the same approach. We're going to create a little tiny stub here, and then we're going to grab out that Mongoose method to delete one by symbol. Make sure that we're exporting it again, and make sure we're exporting it out of this Mongoose model so it's public. And then inside of the watchlist module, we're going to pull it in. So we need to await on that asynchronous item, and we are going to delete. So delete watch item. We need to add this one here as well. Await delete watch item and pass in that symbol, and that should take care of that. Verify it in Postman. It seems to be working fine. We're just verifying here that all our changes don't break our external APIs. Postman doesn't really care what we did. It just knows externally it's calling the data. So we're just verifying here that we didn't break anything. Now we need to move this and integrate our UI now. So back in our UI in the crypto card component, we had added this handler method to handle the click, and we just fired that alert. We did this as a placeholder. So here is where we're going to want to add our toggle. We want to be a little bit smarter about it too, so we're going to pass in the event. And in the event, the click event, we can prevent the default behavior. So in JavaScript, in the browser, we can prevent default behavior, maybe a form submission, a redirection, whatever the event is, we're just preventing it and taking control as part of control components in React. So we're controlling we're controlling the window behavior for that form, but also we're also controlling state as well. If we had state in this component, we'd be controlling it. But for now, we're going to trigger off of the watch item. So what we want to toggle is that if the watch list is already being watched, we want to remove it. And if it's not being watched, we want to watch it. So we want to add. So we're just going to add that little piece of logic in here. And to start, we're just going to add alerts just to make sure that we're following that logic. And then we're going to backfill our API calls here. Just doing this so we can test it in the UI. Remember, the flags are coming from the payload and they're not changing yet. So if we click around here, we should get some different statuses. So that one is removed. This one is added. So one of the best things we can do right now for isolation is we can add an API service folder and build out our API services here. For now, we'll just call this API helper, but this will be responsible for making those API endpoint calls using fetch. You can use Axios, what have you. We can make one generic, or we can break it down per API, however we want to do this. We could have a crypto API, could have a watchlist API, but for right now, maybe we'll just have just a standard API helper here, just to help us out. This is kind of a general name for it, but we don't really want to have all of this kind of mixed in logic into our controllers. Ideally, our controllers should be pretty lean, and we can just kind of call into that API helper and let it manage the endpoints and error handling, all these things. So we can add our get crypto coins here if we wanted to. We can add the endpoint from our crypto dashboard, the fetch, and paste it in there. It can handle some error handling. You can build this out to kind of like a common library. And then you can kind of, the good thing about this is you can unit test directly against it without the component, and just different types of isolation in terms of testing and state that you can do. It's a good idea. So we can move our constants as well. So we're kind of moving this out of the component. So the component doesn't need to worry about URLs or configured API endpoints. We can create a module for this as well and make sure that we're exporting this crypto coins method. And as we bring in our watchlist items, we'll also export those other CRUD operations. And then depending on how big this gets, that's when you can, refactor and reorganize. But for right now, we're just going to return this simple fetch. Inside of our component for crypto dashboard, you need to make sure you're importing that new get method from API helper. And then inside of our load or fetch, then we can just call into that API helper method and grab the response and set state. So the component is mostly just dealing with state and setting state. Just verifying the UI that's still working. Looks like it's loading. And we need to do the same thing for our watch list items. So we're going to build our CRUD operations for add watch items. In the same pattern, it's going to take a symbol. Can you be quiet? So we can organize this a little bit. I mean, this should be in configuration, but we can, create a variable for our server URL. when you're posting to production, obviously this should be a config option, but for right now, instead of hard coding localhost everywhere, we can use our ES6 template literals and just plug in server URL. So rebuild this path a little bit just to make it more maintainable. If we were talking about deployment, this would be type of thing that might be in an environment variable file. Based on the environment you're deploying to, the URL changes. So we need to do a post for our add watch items. And then for our remove item or delete, we need to do a delete action for our API. So we need to do a couple different verbs, not just a straight GET request that Fetch provides. And this will be a delete action. Always look at the documentation. So we're going back to our MDM documentation for Fetch. Take a look at what Fetch offers. It offers more than the default GET request. Let's just see here. We can see here how to handle just a simple GET request. And if we scroll down, making a request and setting a method, so you can see here it takes an object in the payload that has the method key value pair. So we can do the same thing here. And then you can set different payloads in the body if you had to send JSON across the wire as well. So this looks like a good example that we can reuse here. So going back to our API helper here, we're just going to take a look at that example that we just looked at. We're going to use fetch. We're going to use that method key. But building out this URL, we're going to use our server URL. That's on localhost 3007, and then we're going to use the watch list. Remember, the watch list endpoint is the same endpoint for all of our different verbs. That's already configured, so we're going to fetch across that URL, but now we're going to give it that option list that it has. The request options is an object, and inside that object there's a key value pair for method. And here is where you configure the post. We can grab this example for the body. So we're going to send a JSON object. If you were dealing with like a contact us kind of registration form, you can send a big payload. But we're just going to send the symbol. So we can just send our key, which is the symbol, and we're going to stringify it. So it's a JSON object, and we're going to type symbol here, and this is where we just output our variable symbol. So that's the response, and then we return the response back to the caller. Make sure that we're exporting it, making it public so it's available to our component. So in the module that exports, we're adding add watch item. Back in our crypto dashboard here, actually, that's a mistake. We're going to, actually, you know what? Sorry, correction. We need to add the watch item. That is a correction. Back in our crypto card component is where we need to import that add watch item. We also need to delete item as well, or the remove, but that's a little bit later. So for now, we're just going to import in the watch item from the API helper. And then here where we have our placeholder for adding here, this is where we can call this API helper method. Mark this as asynchronous and await on the add watch item. Now we're going to need to get the symbol out. So where's the symbol? The symbol should be into the props symbol. So the add is wired up. We can go back to our UI, refresh, and maybe the hot reloader is reloading the background for us. So let's take a look at our deb tools. Put it side by side to see if our endpoint's going to fire when we click these buttons here. So let's search, use the search window for watch list. So we can watch the watch list network calls. Click XRP, add to watch item. Okay, it's in fire. Because we misspelt it. There you go, watch list. So actually it is firing here. So let's see, you can see the post was okay. It was triggered. It's successfully fired in the background. Oh, it says the symbol is not valid. Okay, so there's an issue with our symbol here. Actually, if we look at how we configured things in the Postman, we just did a URL. Since it was one symbol, we crafted a URL. Let's just take a look at it. It's a question mark. We just added things to the query string. So we just did it a pretty simple way. So we can just append this to the URL. We don't really need a body. That's more if you have a big payload. So we're just keeping it really simple here. And we're just appending the symbol to the query string. So this should work now. It matches the Postman. So let's see, we click this here, add watch list, it fires 200. The response didn't give any response. Let's see in our watch list item here, if we go and skip past this debugging, we should see XRP is now part of it. So we have some XRP. So based on the predictions, we're going to be rich one day with all this XRP that we're adding here. And then we can remove from the watch list here. So we don't have that implemented. So this is the part here. We need to just follow the exact same pattern here. We can pretty much reuse and apply, copy, paste. Which, by the way, in your job, don't say copy, paste. Say reuse and apply. It sounds so much better. To your boss or manager, I'm reusing and I'm applying what I have reused. I'm not just straight copying it. I am applying my knowledge. So let's just say change this method to delete, and this should work here. Make sure we're exporting out the delete method here. Remove watch item. Go back to our crypto card, and in the same way, await on the remove. And we also have to make sure we're importing it in the restructuring. Remove watch item. Make sure we're awaiting on it. Remove watch item. Pass in the props.symbol. So let's take a look. Go back into our app here. Go to our watch list. Let's see if we have 5 things we're watching. We're going to remove Pepe. Remove from watch list. If we do a hard refresh, it's gone. So we need a way to refresh the page perhaps, but it is working. The CRUD operation is working now. So go to our dashboard. So we could add a way to refresh our data, to fetch it. We're going to add refresh data into our crypto card. Let's see what we're going to plan here. We can add this Boolean flag to refresh data. So we're going to add, if refresh data is true, then call refresh data. Basically, we're going to, we could trigger a window reload, but that would work. It would just be a bad experience, right? So we could trigger a refetch, to be honest, if we wanted to, just to fetch the new data, because we're kind of doing the fetch once. So remove from watch list, and then also if we add, you can see we add it here, so the flag is retriggering. We can just put this at the end. The final refresh, doesn't matter if it's added or removed, we need to refresh the data. So we don't need to put that in each if block. We just do it at the end as a finally statement. So you can see it's refreshing now. It's making that call. So we're adding to the watch list, and you can see that the highlight is changing, and then we're removing from the watch list, and the flag is changing. You can see it takes a little while to maybe reload and fetch from the server, but to be honest, it is doing a nice fetch based on our action here. So let's see here. If we go to remove one of these guys, click on remove tether. Let's remove the alerts because this is kind of pausing. Remove the alerts. Inside of our watch list item, probably need to do the same. Here we can go to our watch list item and add the same refresh data. We can give it the get watch item symbol method from our API helper. Make sure we're pulling that in. And then when we click an action, it should refresh. Well, we can, right now we have watch item defined, I guess. We can just kind of pass that over to it. We're getting an error here because fetch watch list is inside the use effect, so it's not visible in scope. So we need to define it outside of the use effect. Again, we can use our API helper, but for right now, we're just going to reuse this method here. So tidy up the use effect, and then that makes it visible so that when we go back to our watch items here and refresh, oh, for some reason it was a bad import statement there. Okay, remove this. Copy the import, the right import for the UI. Go back to our UI, refresh watch items, go to dashboard. And let's see if this toggle works. So we're getting there here. So we're gonna wrap this up soon. We're gonna reuse this import get crypto coins here. And since we built this, we should be able to just call this method here, get crypto coins in our fetch watch list. And then we should be able to just pass the refresh data, that watch list, so that if we make an action on those coins, it should refresh our page. Let's see here. It should refresh our watch list now. So we're putting this all together here. It's getting pretty dynamic. We're close to getting our CRUD operations completed here. Now we made a mistake. We need to fetch the watch list. So we might need to make a fetch method just for the watch list items in our API helper. We were trying to call the crypto coins, which is the whole payload. We need another one in the same way. Get watch list items and do that fetch for us. So we'll make a little method, get watch list items, make it asynchronous, and in the same way, call the server URL. And this is exciting stuff because we're putting it all together here. We're wrapping all of this up, and we'll use this watch list fetch. We'll return the asynchronous fetch request. We'll reuse and apply this server URL so we're not typing the local host all the time, and make sure we're matching our endpoint for watch list. And again, this is a get request on this endpoint. Make sure we're exporting it out, get watch list, and then the missing piece to it is going into our watch list component. And instead of getting the whole fullest crypto coins, get the watch list items. And then right here, we're gonna just fetch the watch list items. So that's our fetch. And remember, our page is already wired up to refresh. So let's see here. Going back to our items here, if we click remove Bitcoin, which we don't want to do, right? It's refreshing now. So we're managing our watch list item in CRUD. Now we're left with XRP. Now our bag is empty. But we have a running app here. This is end-to-end full stack. We did a lot of work here to get this going. What's next probably is learning how to deploy it using Copilot, building this out with either Material UI or Bootstrap, perhaps building a login and protecting our endpoints with API. There's so many things we could do to build this out. But for right now, this is a very good app that we have running. It uses the MERN stack end to end. It's working with external and internal API calls, JavaScript, Bootstrap, CSS, Express, Node.js, MongoDB, Mongoose. This is the full stack. So if you followed along this far, you've learned quite a lot. And if you're interested in more advanced content, if you're interested in how to deploy this, look at the links below in the reference guide. And I can provide the solution as well as the project and source code, and as well as advanced features if you're interested.